Now let us proceed further. Let us see the importance of PML in reinsurance placement of risk. What is the role of PML? How important it is? So importance of loss limit. PML is one thing, loss limit is a different thing. Okay. Many times the large portfolios, large clients, large insurance, large risks, they are placed based on loss limit selected by the insured. In absence of loss limit, the placement of risk becomes very, very difficult. Once the loss limit is opted, it becomes easy for the insurance companies to absorb the risk within India. Now let us see how it plays an important role. Now you see the mega policy. What is the definition of mega policy? As you all know, it is MD plus BI. Sum insured is more than 2,500 crores. That is what is defined as large risk, we call it. Okay. So reinsurance is done on overall loss limit basis by the client, taken by the client. In absence of loss limit, we are compelled to take PML of the risk in absence of loss limit. This is what is written. The PML of the risk is worked out by insurer's risk engineer as per their internal guidelines for PML computation. Or in absence of this, if PML report is not available, then a standard method of PML calculation is used, and which is, it says in case of large risk, it says 30% of PD sum insured. Okay, it was changed, and it came into effect with effect from 1st of March 2019. So in case the sum insured is in excess of 2,500 crores, it is 30% of PD sum insured. Or it is 100% when the sum insured is up to 500 crores. So up to 500 crores, GIC gave their directives that PML is supposed to be taken as 100%. Earlier, what used to happen in a small risk, the PML was reduced drastically, and all bad risks were also underwritten by the companies under the treaty. So this was a compulsion. This was a rule made in order to discourage this practice. So the rule is 30% of PD or 100% of PD sum insured, where the policy sum insured is up to 500 crores, less than 500.
So PD is property damage, right?
Property damage, exactly. Property
okay.
Then your BI, the thumb rule is 100% of BI sum insured is supposed to be taken. Okay. And 100% of BI sum insured for the top location. And for 12 months IP, indemnity period for 12 months, it is supposed to be taken as sum insured. So it shall be proportionately reduced or increased depending upon the indemnity period. But nowadays, you see the sum insured is not supposed to be reduced. It is proportionately, it is increased. It is not supposed to reduce. Say, for example, if the IP is 18 months, then annual gross profit sum insured, which is given, that has to be increased by 1.5 times. Okay. Reduction is not permitted. But for PML purpose, if the indemnity period is taken as 6 months, then of course, we consider as 50% of that. But your treaty guidelines do not permit this. They say minimum 100% of BI sum insured has to be taken for the purpose of calculation of PML. So material damage PML, 30% or 100% as the case may be, and BI it is 100%. This is the way PML is to be calculated. And if the indemnity period is more than 12 months, then this 100%, your annual gross profit, your sum insured, will be increased proportionately in the same proportion. If it is 24 months, it is to be doubled. The PML will increase. BI PML will be double. So total PML of the risk shall be PD PML plus BI PML. This will be the sum total of PML of the risk.
And the loss limit will be the full PML value, sir?
And a loss limit inserted, then your PML funda will not work. I'll give you the example. Here the examples are there. If the loss limit is taken, you simply take loss limit as MD plus BI PML. Then your MD plus BI PML is taken as loss limit, policy loss limit.
So what about
Okay.
sum insured between 500 to 2,500 crores?
What
The
between
PML 500 to
500?
2,500. Yeah.
हाँ, तो उसके लिए तो आपका लॉस लिमिट अगर है तो लॉस लिमिट, अदरवाइज पीएमएल हैज टू बी कैलकुलेटेड फॉर दैट. Okay, then GIC guidelines are there. For up to 100 crores, it is 500 crores, it is 100%. From 500 to 1500 crores, it is 60%. From 1500 crores to 2500 crores, it is 40%. Above 2500 crores, it is 30%. There is a table given by the GIC for calculation of PML.
So PML range is revised to 3,500. More than 3,500
हाँ
will go
ठीक है,
for
वो
30%.
रिवाइज जो हो गया बिल्कुल सही आप बोल रहे हो, उसके लिए 3500 तक अभी ये, हाँ 25%, बिल्कुल सही बोला. दिस लिमिट हैज बीन रिवाइज्ड. सो अप टू योर 3500 crores it is 40%. Above 35%, the 3500 crores, it is reduced to your 30% of the PD sum insured. Okay, he has rightly pointed out recently it has changed and the sum insured limits are changed. Now let us see the steps to be followed in RI placement. The placement of risk is done based on your loss limit or MD plus BI PML, whichever is lower. So lower is to be calculated. If MD plus BI PML is 1500 crores and he selects a loss limit of 1800 crores, then PML, this placement will be done based on this lower of these two. So what are the steps? First of all, find out the PML as per GIC method, 30%, 40%, 50%, depending upon that. Find out the loss limit opted by the insured. Find out the final amount of placement, RI placement, by applying the percentage share accepted by the insured. Now, if he has accepted 100%, then your liability responsibility will be to place either your loss limit or the GIC PML, whatever it is. If it is 60%, then you work out, you multiply and reduce your responsibility. The company has taken 60% share, then the liability would be reduced to that extent for placement of risk. Find out the net retention. What is the net retention under quota share or surplus treaty, as explained earlier, whether it is 20 crores, 40 crores, 50 crores. Then find out what is the obligatory cession of GIC. It is fixed. Understand? It is fixed 5%. GIC obligation, obligatory cession. Then arrange for facultative support for the spillover. Then we will see in example how it is done. And if it is not absorbed within the treaty limits of the company, three things: your retention, treaty limit, and GIC, 5% obligatory fac. If it is not placed within these three parameters, then whatever is the spillover, that has to be arranged on facultative basis. Okay, I'll explain that also. If facultative support is not available, then what are the options available? In that case, what are the options? Following options are available for full RI protection, complete RI protection. What are the following options? If RI support, fac support is not available, reduce the share. Instead of 60, take 50 or 45. Reduce the share. Either you arrange for facultative support. If facultative support is unfortunately not available on the terms which you have underwritten, on that the business is placed, then what is the option? Option left is reduce your participating share. What is the other thing? Let us see. In the first example, the loss limit is 1000 crore. PML of the risk is 1650. Loss limit is 1000. So we take lower of these two. And the share, company's share, is 60%. So how much is supposed to be placed? 60% of 1000 is 600 crores. This is the amount which is required to be placed in terms of PML or absolute amount, because loss limit we are talking. So 60% of 1000, it is 600 crores. Now you see how much will go to GIC, 5% of 600. It is coming to 30 crores. 30 crores would be ceded to GIC. What is the leftover balance amount? 570 crores. 600 was supposed to be placed. Out of that, 30 crores is placed, so it is reduced to 570. Treaty limit is 600. It means FAC requirement is 0. Risk will be 100% placed under the surplus treaty with partial utilization. Pura use nahi hua treaty. Because your treaty limit is 30 plus 570, it is 600 crores treaty. And you were supposed to place only 570, which can be easily placed. No FAC requirement in this particular example. Any confusion in this? So I proceed further. There are many examples I have given.
सर ये लॉस लिमिट का मतलब
वो कैसे डिसाइड किया है सर लॉस लिमिट यहाँ
सर
पे?
लॉस लिमिट एक क्लाइंट मतलब बियर करेगा कोई भी
हाँ,
लॉस
ये तो क्लाइंट डिसाइड करता है. You cannot impose this loss limit. This has to be agreed by the insured. In absence of loss limit, suppose there is no loss limit in the policy, then your responsibility is to place based on this, which is the PML, which is calculated as per the thumb rule, as per the norms. Then you are required to place 1650 crores, not 1000 crore. उस केस में आपका फैक्ट प्लेसमेंट निकल के आएगा. ये
सर
तो
व्हाट आर
यहाँ
द
पे
फैक्टर्स?
हैं?
सर कौन से फैक्टर्स है which decide the loss limit to be fixed by the
नहीं,
insurer?
लॉस लिमिट तो क्लाइंट डिसाइड करेगा डिपेंडिंग अपॉन द पीएमएल ऑफ द रिस्क, डिपेंडिंग अपॉन हाउ मच मैक्सिमम लॉस व्हिच कैन टेक प्लेस एट हिज प्रेमाइसेस. ये सारे फैक्टर्स हैं एंड क्लाइंट दे डिसाइड ओके आई एम फाइन विद 1000 crore लॉस लिमिट इफ दे फील डिपेंडिंग अपॉन द नेचर ऑफ माय रिस्क, डिपेंडिंग अपॉन द नेट कैट एक्सपोजर ऑफ दैट पर्टिकुलर रिस्क लोकेशन, my loss cannot exceed 1000 crore. Although my PML is coming to 1650, but still I feel I cannot, this cannot go because he gets reduction in premium by putting a loss limit lower than the PML.
Okay.
So, this is the incentive to the client. The insurance companies are ready to offer some reduction in price because of this by inserting a loss limit. So two things are advantageous in favor of the client. Number one is he gets some reduction in premium. Secondly, his risk is easily placed within India. Okay. Like, for example, I give you Reliance Industries. At one time, around 6-7 years back, they were not agreeing for any loss limit. They say nothing doing. We want 100% placement on sum insured basis. And the sum insured was more than 2 lakhs crore. So you can imagine that placement of that risk, it was going all over the world. All reinsurance companies of the world, they were accepting 2%, 3%, 2.5%, 0.5%, something. And this is the way placement of Reliance was done. But after some time, and the premium was at that time, I remember it was 800 crores because more is the your sum insured or placement. It requires a lot of effort and a lot of money is required to place the risk of such a high order of sum insured. So the premium was very, very high because reinsurers were charging heavy premium for this Jamnagar refinery. But Dhirubhai Ambani was agreeable, or your Mukesh Ambani was also ready to do it for 800 crores. They were ready to shell it out. But later on, they were advised there is no point in taking this much of placement. You take a loss limit. You take 50,000 crore, 75,000 crore, no problem. 1 lakh crore you take a loss limit. At least the placement can be easy. But now I have this is reduced drastically and premium is also reduced. It from 800 crores, it is reduced to 130 crores also. Okay. So this is the advantage of taking loss limit. The placement is also easily done and the premium reduction is also offered because of their imposing a loss limit on the policy.
Sir,
Okay.
in this case, 1650 is the PML of the risk. So the sum insured would be, of course, higher. So
Sum
limit-
insured maybe 3,000 crore, 400 crore,
Right,
4,000 or 5,000, whatever may be the sum insured. We are not talking of sum insured of the risk. We are concerned with loss limit and PML. These are the
Loss-
two things we are concerned.
So, sir, loss limit is the sum insured which will be written by the lead insurer, right, sir?
No, loss limit is not the sum insured. Loss limit is written by the, it is given in the policy. So it is offered. At the time of placement, this is to be taken into consideration.
Means suppose 3000 का sir अगर risk है, PML suppose 1650 है, and if any of the company wants to lead this program, then they will
हाँ तो
to
लीड
fix the
करेंगे ना आराम से,
loss
कोई
limit.
भी
It is
600
1,000
करोड़
crores
कैपेसिटी वाली जो
Right.
कंपनी है,
So-
दे कैन लीड, दे कैन राइट 100%.
Okay, and 400 crores would be with the follower shares. Like out of this 1,000 crores, sir,
देखो
how would
60%. Now you see, in this particular case, the company has written 60%. So balance 40% will be shared amongst the co-insurers. The lead
Okay.
company has underwritten only 60%. That is why they are in a position to 100% absorb within their treaty capacity of 600 crores.
Sir, but the loss limit, if any loss occurs, it is a 3,000 crore risk, and we are insuring up to say 1,000 crores, sir, right? So if that risk exceeds 1,000 crores, then how it would be covered?
अरे
Sir?
risk नहीं, if the loss exceeds 1,000 crore,
Loss,
that is the
risk नहीं. Loss exceeds 1,000 crores, then from where
नहीं.
it will be, the loss will be borne?
हाँ तो वो लॉस जो ऊपर मान लो 1,000 करोड़ की जगह 1,200 करोड़ का लॉस आ गया तो 200 करोड़ दैट इंश्योर्ड विल हैव टू बियर ना. देयर वोंट बी एनी रिकवरी फॉर दैट 200 crores.
Okay.
Any loss above the loss limit which he is agreeing will go to his net account na. In that case there won't be any recovery for that.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
So they can arrange alternative insurances, sir, to cope up with that. जैसे अपने बाकी जो forms सर बताए, से excess of loss, जो बाकी अपने forms बनाए उसमें वो कर सकता है ना वो.
अगर वो कहते हैं हमें इसका अरेंजमेंट चाहिए, they are ready to shell out additional premium, then brokers can help them in placing this additional risk of whatever is the requirement. Say for example, PML is 1650, additional requirement is 650. So they can go. But instead of that, if they are so sure that this 1,000 crore limit is not comfortable, then they should not take that limit. There is no compulsion on them, na?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now let us see another example. Loss 2. This is another example. Here the loss limit is increased slightly. Loss limit instead of 1,000 crore, I am assuming it is 1,500 crores. PML remains the same. Treaty exposure remains the same, 60%. So the liability is now increased to 900. Earlier it was 600, 60% of 1,000. Now 60% of 1,500, it comes to 900 crores. Now GIC obligation, obligatory 5%, it goes to, it is 45 crores. Balance is 855. Out of that, 600, okay, is the total treaty limit, including the retention. So the treaty, including the retention, will absorb 43% of 100%. 43% of the risk will be given to reinsurers, okay, including their retention. And unplaced exposure is 255. How this 255 has come? 855 minus 600. And balance is 17%. Of course, I have forgotten to take this 45 crores exposure. No, this I have already taken into consideration. So 900 less 45, it is 855. Out of 855, 645, this PML, okay, 45 is going, 645 is the amount which goes to reinsurers. 45 crores is the retention, okay, 600 is the treaty limit, 645. So 645 is 43% and remaining is 17%. So risk is now placed, 43 plus 17. 60% share is there, 60% is fully placed. Like this, FAC requirement is 17%. Their treaty is provided only available to cover only 43% of the share, 43% of their 60% share. So balance 17%, they will have to go for FAC requirement. In this particular case, the FAC requirement will be 17% of their share. Okay. Now let us see a few more working examples. Now ABC insurance companies, let us see more examples. He takes 90% quota share treaty with a treaty limit of 500 crores. The treaty limit is only 500 crores. it is 90% quota share. That means 10% is the retention and 90% is going to reinsurance company. Okay. If the company accepts 100% share of a risk where the sum insured of 1700 crores, but with a PML of 700 crores only. 700 crores is the PML. There is no loss limit. Okay. And the company has got quota share treaty of limit of 500 crores. Okay. And 90% quota share limit. So how the placement shall be done in this particular case? So first of all, you see obligatory cession, it is coming to 35 crores, 5% of 700. 700 we are placing because PML is 700. So our calculation will be done based on 700 crores PML. So it will be 5%, 35 crores will go to GIC. That means 5% will go to GIC. Now, this absolute amount we are calculating to place this 700 crores of PML. Now, what is balance PML to be placed? 700 minus 35. It comes to 655. Then insurer's retention. Retention is 10%. I have already told 90% quota share. That means 10% is to be retained. So he will retain 10% out of the treaty of 500 crores. Okay. The treaty limit is 500, not more than 500. They will agree. So 50 crores is the maximum retention and 450 they will give as a treaty support. So total it will be 35. 35 is GIC, 50 is their retention, 450 they are getting from the treaty. So total placement is 535. Out of 655, they are able to place 535 crores of PML. Negative हो गया. So this is what is to be done. अब इसके पास क्या है? What is the solution? Now let us see that. If he is approaching the reinsurance market to get a support of this much, 23. It is a huge support. 23% support is a big support, which is needed. So if he is unable to get that, what is the option? Option is to don't accept 100%. Reduce your share. Make it 80%, 90% or 75% so as to adjust so that your FAC requirement is reduced to 0. You will have to back calculate that way. By doing this 80%, whether you are in a position to place or not, if you back calculate, you can calculate very easily so that the FAC requirement is reduced to 10%, 5%, or it is 0. You don't have to approach FAC market for that. Okay. Now what else? Another question. Dekho. Now here it is surplus treaty. Earlier it was a quota share treaty. Here in this example, I am taking an example of 9 lines of surplus treaty with maximum retention of 50 crores. So I told you, I'll give more examples of surplus treaty. Here the retention is 50 crores. 9 lines are there. That means treaty capacity is how much? 50 plus 50 into 9. 50 is the retention and 9 lines are available. So 15 into 9, total it comes to 500 crores. Now, if the company accepts a risk with PML of 600 crores, okay, PML is 600 crores. How the placement will be done? Option 1, company accepts 100% share. Okay. In that situation, what will happen? Net retention 15. How much it is? 8.33% of 100%. These percentages have to be calculated. Reason being, because once you will do the premium allocation of premium, then these percentages are required. So 50 is how much? 8.33%. Okay, 50 divided by 600. So 50 divided by 600, it is coming to 8.33. That means 8.33% of the premium would be retained by the company. Now treaty capacity 450. So 75%, it is 450, 75% of 600. So 75% of the premium will be ceded to treaty leader, surplus treaty leader. Okay. Then GIC, 5%. GIC is fixed. So 5% goes to GIC. So how much it is? Total, if you see, it is not 100%. It is 75 plus 5, 80, 80 plus this 88.33. 88.33% is only placed. So your fact requirement is remaining 100 minus 88.33. That comes to 11.66% of 100%. So this much is the fact requirement under these circumstances. Or you can calculate otherwise also. 600 was required to be placed. How much is placed? 530, 50 plus 440 plus 30. What is the balance? Balance is 70. 70 is 11.66% if you calculate. Whether you calculate from this way or directly you calculate 70 divided by 600, it will again give you the same figure of 11.66%. So this is the fact requirement. Now you see, in case there is a claim, so premium is divided amongst in this ratio. If the premium received is say 10 crores, out of 10 crores, 11% will go to fact reinsurer. Okay, 5% will go to GIC, 75%, that means 7.5% will go to treaty leader, and your 8% will be retained. And if there is a claim of 50 crores, it will be retained, it will be distributed, it will be shared in the same proportion. Sharing of premium will be done in the same proportion, and the recovery will also be done in the proportion of 75, 5 and 11.33%. And remaining 8.33% shall be retained by the company. 8.33% will be the net retention of the insurance company, which can be further recovered under XOL treaty. This is the gross retention. So if there is a surplus treaty, of course, each company has the surplus treaty to cover, to protect their net retention, to gross retention. So this retention will be further recovered under XOL treaty. Now, how to avoid FAC? FAC ka yahi tarika, I told you, instead of 100, accept 70%. If it becomes 70%, your liability is reduced to 420 crores only. Instead of 600, you are required to place only 420 crores. GIC obligatory is reduced to 35 instead of 50. It is reduced to, instead of how much? Earlier it was higher, na? Now this 420, 5% of 420, 5% of how much? Reduced obligation, 70%. Yes. Ye jo hai, this GIC, this will be again in this example, ye bhi change hoga. 5% of 420 reh jayega. And balance to be placed, itna ho gaya, total capacity 500. So this risk will be placed 100% within the treaty capacity and no FAC requirement. There is no FAC requirement in this case. FAC requirement will be nil. थोड़ा calculation में ऊपर नीचे करोगे, फिर भी it will be within the treaty capacity of 500 crores. Now another example. This is a very good example. Little complex one where the various scenarios, loss scenarios are there. Now let us see. If you understand this, your 90% fundas would be clear. How the placement and recoveries of losses are done in various situations. Now you see, this is the most complicated example I have taken. Okay. Net retention is 30 crores. 19 line treaty is there. So your treaty support is 570 crores. Total capacity 600. Risk Excel, they have taken 25 in excess of 5. This is what is the risk Excel the company has taken. This is what is the treaty arrangement. Okay. So it is surplus treaty with a retention of 30 and 19 line support is there. Total capacity is 600. Now, there is a risk of where the PML is 1000 crore. Now, what will happen? A, PML is 1000. Net retention 30. So what is the percentage? You keep on calculating the percentage. So retention is 3% only. This ratio, sharing is very important because in this sharing only premiums, they are ceded, okay, allocated, and recovery is also done in the same proportion, 3, 57, 5 and 35. Let us see how it is coming. So retention is 30. Immediately you back calculate 30 divided by 1000. So how much will it be? 3%. Now 570 is the treaty capacity. So straightway 570 divided by 1000, it is 57%. GIC is fixed 5%, no issues. Okay, now facultative. Facultative is, there are two ways. If you reduce these three, okay, out of 100, then you get 35. 57 plus 3, 60 plus 5, 65. So 100 minus 65 is 35. Or the other way to calculate fac requirement is you calculate this way. How much is placed? Out of 1000, 30 this, 600 gone, then 50 obligatory GIC. So 650 gone, the balance is 350. 350 is 35% of 1000 crore. So your fac requirement is 35%. And risk axle, in this particular case, this is the risk axle that we will see how we are going to utilize this risk axle. Okay, now see, there is a loss of 200 crores in this treaty arrangement. Now, how the recoveries will be done? Retention would be 3%. 3% means 6 crores would be retained. Now, this treaty would be utilized to recover this retention amount of 6 crores. So, out of 6 crores, 1 crore can be recovered under risk axle treaty because the attachment point is deductible is 5 crores. So, the excess amount of 1 crore can be recovered under risk axle treaty in this particular case. So, the net retention would be 5. This is the net retention. So 6 crores is the recovery. Then treaty, how much would be recovered from the treaty? Out of 200 crores, 57%. That comes to 114. Obligatory cession 5%. That means 10 crores would be recovered from GIC under obligatory sessions. And then facultative 35%. That means out of 200 crores, 70 crores would be recovered from facultative reinsurer. It is a huge liability. No reinsurance company agrees to this extent of very difficult. Of course, they agree also. It is not that, depending upon the type of risk, but 35% is a big amount to arrange for facultative basis, on facultative basis. Any question on this, on recoveries and this sharing percentage? Any doubt?
सर रिस्क एक्सेल और नेट रिटेंशन का एक बार रिलेशन फिर से एक बार रिपीट
रिस्क
करिए
एक्सेल का
और नेट रिटेंशन
हाँ,
का रिलेशन
हाँ बिल्कुल बता रहे हैं. देखो ये रिस्क एक्सेल इज व्हाट दे हैव अरेंज्ड 25 crores in excess of 5. मतलब net retention will be recovered under this treaty. Net retention in this case is how much? 6 crores.
6.
It is exceeding the attachment point. So there will be a recovery. If it was less than 5, there would not have been any recovery under risk axle treaty. Agar 2 crore hota, nothing would have been recovered under risk axle. The company would have absorbed 2 crores on their net account. Up to 5 crores, they are mentally prepared. Na? Once you take the treaty in excess of 5 crores, it means you are mentally prepared, okay, to accept up to 5 crores retention on their net account. Yes, dear. So what has been explained, that treaty protection is for protection of your balance sheet, okay, company's account. So first of all, recovery will be done under your surplus treaty. Then your gross retention, say for example, in this particular case, the retention was 6 crores. It was further recovered under your risk axle treaty to the extent of 1 crore. Now this 1 crore, okay, and you keep on adding this, whatever is the balance recoveries which could not be made, and the loss ratio finally is calculated, and ultimately it is to be seen whether it exceeds the attachment point, and then further recoveries can be made provided the loss ratio is again exceeds the attachment point, 80% or 85%, whatever has been agreed. Now in this particular example, okay, now if the loss, another loss of 500 crores has taken place. Now you see what happens. If the loss amount, earlier we have seen 200 crores. Now see the case of 500 crores loss. So here the retention will be how much? In that case, how much would be the recovery? For 500 crores loss, 3% as I told you. So net will be 1500 crores. Instead of 6 crores, it would be 15 crores. The net retention would be 1500. in a 500 crores loss. Recovery would be from treaty, it will be 285. Obligatory, it will be 25. And facultative would be 35, that is 175. So here, the risk axle will come into picture to support, to protect the net, which is 15. So it is 25 in excess of 5. So 10 crores would be recovered under risk axle treaty in this particular case.